Welcome back to the Sifra channel. Today I'll be showing you guys how to make the most luscious حنيذ you've ever had. Now let's just make it clear that there are many different ways to make حنيذ. This is just one of them. حنيذ is a slow roasted Yemeni style lamb, and this is a rendition of my grandmother's traditional recipe. It does take a bit of time, but it is worth every single bite. So keep watching, don't forget to subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed this video. So the first thing we're going to do is prepare our marinade, and I'm starting with a generous amount of green onions and chives. Now traditionally my grandma told me to only make this with green onions, but I've recently discovered that the 50-50 mix of green onions and chives is really nice. So it's up to you, either use 100% green onions or incorporate some chives. Next, I'm adding some cumin as well as black pepper, some salt, turmeric, bay leaves, and a lot of them, cinnamon sticks, cloves, cardamom, butter, which you want to make sure is at room temperature, and then a generous amount of olive oil. And try your best to use a higher quality olive oil because you will really taste that difference in this recipe. Now we're going to cover that up and blend it very well until all of those bits and pieces are nicely incorporated, and you will have a beautiful marinade that looks just like this. So now we're ready to marinate our meat, and what I'm using is lamb shoulder and neck. These are the most tender parts for حنيذ, so I highly recommend you ask your butcher to cut these up for you with the bone in about large hand-sized pieces because they will shrink down slightly as they roast slowly in the oven. So go ahead and add your marinade to the meat and start massaging it in really well. And that's pretty much it. You want to do this step 24 hours ahead of time so that the flavors really have time to develop. The next day before you roast, make sure that you take it out of the oven just to get to room temperature. And so in my big pot, and I like to use cast iron pots, I added a generous amount of olive oil on the bottom, layered up all of my marinated meat, and added a few dried lemon, really depends on the quantity, and then covering it up and putting it in the oven at 450 degrees for 1 hour. After 1 hour, you want to take it out of the oven, toss it with a wooden spoon just to make sure you're giving all of the meat pieces an opportunity to cook on the bottom of the pot. Cover it again, and this time turn down the heat to 350 degrees. Now we're putting it into the oven again, covered for 30 minutes and basically repeating. So after 30 minutes, take it out of the oven, toss it, cover it, put it back in the oven for another 30 minutes, and then take it out. At this point, it's been a total of 2 hours, and depending on the quantity of meat you have, you want to do a fork test. And here I think it's pretty much ready. I'm gonna give it another 20 minutes uncovered just to make sure that it gets nicely browned on top. So after those 20 minutes of uncovered baking, you can see how the top layer of meat is really nicely browned. So I'm gonna go ahead and transfer all of the meat to a serving dish, trying to keep the more brown pieces up on top for nicer presentation, and then any of the leftover juices along with the oil that's on the bottom, just drizzle it right on top. So I'm just gonna keep the garnish nice and simple today, a little bit of green onions, and that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I promise this dish is finger licking good. You will never want to have lamb any other way. Okay, I mean, some other lamb dishes are good too, but you get the point. This is definitely going to be a keeper in your go-to recipe list. So don't forget to subscribe, comment below if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.